As long as the leader is painting a vision and taking people with them and is clear about it, then people can choose whether they want to get on that particular journey or not.
Welcome, Jeremy, and thank you once again for sitting with us for a session for the Success Mindset YouTube channel. How are you, my friend?
I'm good, thank you. How are you, Damien?
Yes, very, very good, strange times at the moment, and lots of opportunity, which is why it's so great to speak with people like you and really get your thoughts and ideas and understanding about how we can best take most effective action.
Sure.
So today we're talking about effective leadership and management, and I know this is an area you've got a huge amount of expertise and experience in, both in your professional life now, but also you're a senior leader in your previous life, yeah, so to speak. So what, in your own words, how would you define effective leadership and management?
Okay, well, if I just distinguish between the two, to me, I guess leadership is more around the bigger picture and setting a direction for organizations, whereas management is more about getting the job done so that the organizations are successful. In terms of effective, I think, again, if you take effective leadership, I think it's about, there's a few key components, and there's loads of books being written, but for me, from what my perspective on it is, initially it's about creating a compelling vision or purpose. And I think Simon Sinek says start with why. So what's the reason why we're doing this? I think it's also about communicating effectively to all the people involved. So you can take people with you. So communicating it effectively and authentically, and then taking people with you so that they can see how what you are proposing as a leader is going to benefit them, and it's just the right thing to do. Yeah. And then linked to that, I think, is making the right decisions at the right time. Because you can be massively authentic and wonderful and great vision, but if you're making the wrong decisions, you end up asking people to follow you over a cliff, which is probably not a good idea. So that's what I'd say in terms of effective leadership. In terms of effective management, there'll be elements of what I've just said, but I think it's getting things done in a way that engages people, actually, so they feel happy doing it and want to do it and want to work for you.
Yeah. I know, obviously, what you're speaking about, the start with why, that was all around the golden circle, wasn't it? And he spoke very much about there being 3 layers, and it was the what, the how, and the why. And most companies start with what they do, how they do it, and then why they do it. And the most successful leaders, the most successful companies actually start with why. You get that emotive hook.
Get the purpose. Engage people so they'll just want to do it, and they'll come in early and stay late and be happy to do that. Yeah,
absolutely. I think we all want that in our, we want that for ourselves. We want that for the people that we work with and our colleagues. Absolutely. Yeah. And I guess the next question I've got, and I know this will be a real hot topic for anyone watching this that might manage people, or even in their own personal lives, that might have to have some, what they might deem tough conversations or difficult conversations. People want to be nice to people generally, and a lot of the time, a lot of onus is put on difficult conversations, and people sometimes don't take the action they perhaps should in leadership or management positions due to that. How would you maybe coach someone to have those maybe difficult conversations, as they're often termed?
Okay, so coming from a neuro-linguistic programming background, so the L for linguistics, so the interesting word you've used there is difficult, something inverted commas, difficult conversation. If we're going to label something as difficult, then it may well become difficult. Whereas if we label it as perhaps an opportunity for development, or an authentic conversation, or a conversation for possibilities and new ways of doing things, then those different ways of describing it and the way we think about it differently as a result can help change how we feel about going into it. So rather than perhaps dreading it because it's inverted commas difficult, we may think, actually, yeah, let me go and make a difference here in this conversation. Yeah. So I think that's one key thing, to pre-frame it, for the manager to pre-frame it effectively in his or her mind. And then I think it's also keeping the eyes on the prize. So to think about the purpose of the conversation. If someone's not doing their work effectively, support them so that to be as good as they can be. And of course, bear in mind there are other people involved. So if one person is holding a whole team back, then that cannot continue indefinitely. So sooner or later, that person either has got to up his or her game, or if perhaps they're just not suited to the role. And so for the manager to be mindful of the longer term goal and vision for the department, and to think about the impact on other people of this particular person underperforming.
And then when, if we think about leaders, especially rather than management, if we're talking about leaders and people that might be at all different levels of organisations, they might be in politics or whatever.
Yeah.
What do you think are the key traits for an authentic leader? So in business, we might revere people like Steve Jobs, for example. And I know Steve Jobs was a bit of a, Marmite character to some. But what key traits would you say?
What are the key traits? Well, I think, it goes back to what I mentioned earlier about having a very clear vision. I think being able to balance the person or the aspects and the task. So bearing in mind, sure, the job's got to get done, got to achieve results, but to do it with people rather than using people. Absolutely. And I think if you can balance the two, and I say to set a direction that people want to go in, and in businesses, bearing in mind that not everyone would want to go and work for, using your example, Steve Jobs. Some people may want to go and work for trading houses in the city, in banks, financial institutions. Other people, that would be totally against their values. They may want to go and work in the NHS or in education. So it's horses for courses. So it's, as long as the leader is painting a vision and taking people with them and is clear about it, then people can choose whether they want to get on that particular journey or not.
And I guess if you've got, let's say, a company, whether you work for the company or whether it's your own company, if you don't have a clear vision and set of shared values with both your customers and your colleagues or the people that you employ, ultimately that's going to be doomed to failure, would you say?
I don't want to necessarily say doomed to failure. Let's say there'll be suboptimal results.
Yes.
So results are not as good as they would otherwise be. And, there are organizations that where there's alignment, it looks as though organizations like Microsoft and Apple, people are on board, they know what it's about, and well, the results, certainly up until this point of the interview, the results are excellent. And there are other organizations where you get mixed messages and they just don't produce great results, or certainly not sustainably great results.
And then if, thinking about becoming a better leader, a better person inside yourself, someone that really wants to move forward and maybe take their staff with them or develop personally, what key tips, tools or takeaways could you tell people from watching this video that they can put into practice and just become a more authentic leader, a better person, a better leader?
Lots of things. So learn, face your own demons and deal with them. So we've pretty much every human being, maybe the Buddha didn't, but mere mortals have limiting beliefs and stuff that get in the way of them being totally authentic. So face them, address them, recognize them, educate yourself, and be true to yourself. So you often find that the real leaders are the ones who passionately believe in what they do. And you can just almost feel it, you can smell it, you can taste it. It just oozes out of their pores. So I think, I think Shakespeare said, above all else, to thine own self be true. So it's like, be true to yourself, and people will follow you.
And I know that certainly a lot of the people I've worked with over the years, the leaders that are truly revered are those that do take people with them. They give them ownership at all different levels. And
Yeah.
I mean, when we were coming into this interview and we had a bit of a pre-talk before we started recording, you told me a lovely anecdote about NASA. I just wondered if you would just share that, because I'd never heard it before. And
it's so allegedly, but this, I've heard it from so many different people. JFK, John F. Kennedy, was doing a tour of NASA in the early 60s, and he went around asking people what they did, and he was asking a janitor, "What do you do?" And the janitor said, "Sir, I'm helping to put a man on the moon." So the fact the people who were leading NASA could create a vision throughout the whole organization, and no disrespect to janitors, it's not, should we say, the most prestigious and the high, it's not high up necessarily in the hierarchy of an organization, but nonetheless, that particular person, one, knew what his purpose was in the mission, and he was being a leader in his own way. He was going about, he knew his mission, he knew his purpose. He chose that, and he did it in a way that would inspire people.
Yeah, I loved it when you told me about that. I thought it was absolutely brilliant, and the power of it is unbelievable. Because if that's happening with a janitor, and he's got that focus, you imagine what the astronauts are thinking when they need to execute at the highest level.
Exactly. If everyone in the organization has the same, use the term, common purpose or vision or values, that creates like a laser beam of focus, a laser beam of energy, as opposed to if you get dispersed, if there's not the alignment, then you get what most organizations have.
Jeremy, always it is a pleasure talking to you, my friends. Thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. And I know that people viewing this channel will appreciate it as well.
My pleasure, Damien. Thank you for asking me.
And as we always say when we sign off these videos, make your life a masterpiece, my friends. Go out and execute whatever you need to do. Your destiny is in your hand. You've heard great stuff from people like Jeremy, and you've got the tools now to go out and start executing. So thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, everyone. And we'll see you next time.